Well, good evening. This is Dr. R. Michael Fisher. I'm an educator. I'm an adult educator and also have a degree in curriculum and pedagogy, and as well as that, interest as in education for the 21st century, because this project I'm going to talk about tonight, the Fearology Institute, which I founded a couple years ago in IDEA, and we've had 1 year of practice with real students. I'm particularly interested in transformative learning and transformative education. And that's a holistic and an integral approach, which is kind of a complex idea, but it's that basically, we have to look at the body, the mind, the soul, the spirit. We have to look at the inner life, the outer life. We have to look at the social sphere of both the outer life and the inner life and how those all come to integrate. That's what I call holistic integral. So my purpose on this video is to do another video. There's an introduction video to the Fearology Institute, which I can link below. This is kind of my second video to share a bit of what's happened after a year of practicing this online higher education. But before I get into the actual logistics of what it was like actually doing online education around the world, we had people from all countries, a small cohort in this last year. I want to go through the PowerPoint rather quickly that I've created, which I will send to you if you're interested. And that gives you all the fine details of the program, etc. So let's go through that video. I'll walk through it. I'm going to skip through the slides, pull out a few highlights for you, and give you a sense of the possibility for you as a learner. Someone who's really self-motivated is important, who wants to take on some kind of new learning, and if fear is the topic, and fearlessness and its relationship to love, and those in the largest sense. Fearology obviously is the study of fear in relation to life, to all of these dynamics and the future and where we're going as a planet. And you can imagine with me, with other students in this program, what kind of future that you want, what kind of future you think you can actually bring as a consultant, as a teacher yourself, and or just as somebody who wants this knowledge for your own personal life as well and those around you. But I'm looking at a pretty big picture as we'll go through the PowerPoint of the potential for the new Fearologist for the 21st century. Here we go. Share. Get to my PowerPoint here. And then I'm just going to go up onto full screen. So there we go with the definition. There's an email for the Institute. You can see this little photograph I have on the left-hand side, a postmodern imaginary of learning and research. I love how this old building is connected to this new design building that an architect made. This is somewhere in Europe. And I just wrote global critical thinking about fear in a postmodern era. So this is not going to be about traditional understandings of fear, this course, this Fearology discipline, which I'm putting out into the world and leading. It is really about an education for the 21st century, into the modern, into the postmodern, and even into the post-postmodern world. And that's just a historical unfolding that I think is going to be really essential. So the Fearology Institute has 3 different mainstream programs, which I'll go through. I'll tell you a little bit about myself as a scholar who endorses the study of fear and in higher education, and just as a transdisciplinary study, which means across all disciplines that you will study fear. Again, in one course or so that you can't do all of that, but I will introduce, various courses as I've got here. And I'll talk about the tuition and the gift economy, which I operate on. And there's levels of certificates you can gain from this program and so on. So let's just go to that first. This is probably one of the more important slides, is to remember it's a global project. This is a nonprofit organization, really, in search of fearlessness. Research Institute is what I started, and the Fearology Institute is a branch of that. And, I would like to make some kind of gift to the world, and I would like some kind of gift back, obviously, because I have a livelihood that I have to maintain as well to pay the bills. But as a online, we can do this pretty encumbered with not a lot of overhead, etc. The unfolding of a dream is for me, for the world to recognize the Fearologist just like you'd recognize a climatologist, a biologist, an anthropologist, a psychologist, a sociologist. Fearology is a new discipline of study, and it's available to anybody in the world. I'm very open to people 16 years of age and over. You can come in and talk to me. Let's do an email connection, whatever, and start talking about your possibilities as a learner. So that's my educational philosophy, is I believe anyone who is an adult can learn and set up their own learning. I'll give you some guiding structures. And what I'm exploring right now is how much structure to give students or not. And that's something we can negotiate. So just if you're interested in Fearology, let's have a chat and see what might be possible for you. So I offer, at least in the program here, officially, there may be other ideas that people have, but these three main streams. One is to become a more academic research writer, teacher, and a scholar yourself in this field. And that could be then for professionals who just want to apply it to, say, their counseling practice, or if they're in business and management and they want to apply some of the Fearology ideas as well to their work, they can do that. And then if you want to be an activist kind of in the popular education movement, wanting to bring about change and transformation of the world and in development in your communities, you can follow that stream as well. They all overlap, and I don't say you have to pick which stream you want to go in right away. You can kind of explore in the first courses or two, and then see where you want to go. So just to get this idea, this new Fear scholarship is starting, at least since the late 1990s, when I started to really focus in on new ways of understanding fear, although it goes back to 1989 for me when I started studying fear as a very specific topic. So I talk about knowledge is power. So I basically say, well, have as many kinds of knowledges as you can to bring to the topic of fear. And I've listed a few there: semiotics of fear, politics of fear, philosophy of fear. But really, there's a whole new fields and ideas called fearism, philosophy of fearism. There's fear analysis. There's various kinds of other forms that you can get into and we'll be exploring. And you might want to even make up your own way of knowing and studying fear, so that you bring a particular kind of powerful knowledge to the field. And this is real, folks. So I put up this slide just to basically say, I actually have been slightly recognized in the mainstream media at one point from this time I was teaching at the University of Lethbridge, and I just wanted to show that slide that the media actually was interested in that time. But there's no doubt it's really hard to get attention on being, a fearologist. And I wanted to just share this quote on the right-hand side and the left-hand side, but 4 arrows. Dr. John Trent Jacobs, who's a educational leader with an Indigenous perspective, he says we have to look at the growing field of fearology and how it influences everything. And yes, thank you very much, Dr. Jacobs, because I agree that it's just burgeoning. More and more people are starting to recognize how fear is so important in the world. Here's another academic scholar who posted this for me, a philosopher at the American Institute for Philosophical and Cultural Thought. And he was promoting these courses on his own goodwill. Thank you very much. And I appreciate that the philosophical community will also be invited into looking at fearology both critically, right? And the whole program is to be critical of what fearology is emerging and could be, and maybe what it ought not to be. And then also, creative in what it can be. So I'm just going to go through a few more of this, but one of the issues is how much does it cost? And you can see in red print up here on the screen, TFI, the Fearology Institute, operates its tuition within a gift economy model. And without all that text, just to let you know, I think at the bottom there it says each of the 4 courses in the first level certificate are held in money currency with a value of $1,000 Canadian. That's how much I think each course is worth, at least. That's what I'm offering in services for you. Total of $4,000, obviously, but gifting can take place at any point during the 10-week duration of a course or longer during a number of courses. And this is a counter economy. It's not about you giving money, me getting money, and then that equal exchange. No, it's more about I'm gifting this to you and you figuring out how much you can afford, how much you think it's worth, and it may not even be in dollars. You may make a gift to the Fearology Institute to me by actually passing on tuition, the gift to others. So gift also means that if you have excess funds and are able to commit to taking courses yourself, yet want to support the teaching offered by TFI to expand the understanding of fear in the world, you could possibly donate money to others in the course and basically give that gift of appreciation and pass it on into your world. So again, my point was to not have to have a lot of money to be able to do a program like this, and yet you still have to have the commitment and the connection to and the inspiration to do this course, because it's a lot of work in some ways. It's going to be intense. It's going to be a powerful learning journey for you. And my experience, just to let you know, is that a lot of the students, the 5 or 6 we had, they start off really keen, excited, and start going, and very soon you get a decrease in motivation, not so much effort going into the projects, the assignments, and just being able to pass the gift on so that new students were coming in. So that didn't happen in this last year, where I felt that the students who were taking the program, the first course anyway, which was basics, to understanding Fearology, I think it was called the Fear Imaginary, that those students did not produce the kind of energy or shared enough, perhaps, it's hard to say, so that I had new inquiries into the Institute with possible new students to carry on. So at this point, I have no students, and at this point, no student has actually completed the program that they signed up for. One is very close to finishing, but the others have not. So that's really important to let you know, is that, yeah, this was the first course, is that it's really going to be a Fearology Institute and the whole field of Fearology in this serious way that I'm putting it out, compared to some people putting out the word Fearology is not very serious and even playful, or even a negative term for some people if you look on the internet. I'm serious, and I think you can see that I've put a lot of thought and a lot of effort into this program, and that's really what I would like to see other students picking up on that spirit. So if you're here to kind of just do something for yourself and kind of your own self-interest, and you're not thinking of the bigger picture of the future sustainability, that will not be part of practicing a gift economy. A gift economy is always you take from the world or from others, and you're always thinking, how can I sustain that which brought me this great gift, right, of learning, of transformation, of healing, whatever might go on during the course. So thinking of that sustainability, which is that futurist perspective. So truly, Fearology, as I see it and will envision it as an imaginary, is going to always have that future view. And that's part of Dr. Fisher's philosophy of teaching here. You can see I really ask for discipline. I ask for spontaneity and play. I ask for study and work. That means really actually put the work in, folks. You can't just do this, as a low priority. Yes, of course, it may not be the first priority in life. You may have to make a living. You may have to do this and do that. And crises happen. I'm very flexible to be specific to your needs. So we just keep communication. That's the most important thing I noticed with some of the students this year, is they didn't communicate always what was going on. And that's really important, to be self-aware and practicing your own self-awareness, and then sharing that with me and other peer students. So you can do that through various internet, connections, social media, however you want to do it. But just even an email group, just on any of the media that I use, particularly as an instructor, etc. So embrace vulnerability, you can see, is my fourth part of my teaching philosophy, and that's something I did not see very often in this cohort of students that just went through. I think it's because a lot of them didn't understand my teaching philosophy, and or just were not willing to, or not capable, or it just was too strange for them. It was too new. They're used to something a little bit more, simple, straightforward, give us the information, we'll give it back to you and repeat what we're learning. And no, transformative learning, which I said in the very beginning, is about changing. And the function of a teacher, I like this quote, is to give other people different perspectives. And that actually means that different perspectives will disturb you and ought to disturb you in a good way. And in some cases, that can be kind of very threatening to people. And I understand that. So I'm aware that that's something we keep talking about. There's a bio that you can get. I talk about additional gifting in terms of funding other students, student scholarships. But let's just go through this, and I'll end the video in this short, brief overview. Why would anyone want to become a Fearologist? This is a question I've asked myself many times. And the best answer for me, at least, is that I wanted to become a Fearologist because I saw that humanity did not seem to know how to effectively analyze and solve the fear problem, capital letters, on this planet. A problem so obvious to me and a few rare others. There are some others. So one of the basic things I says, you do have to become a critic to go into this. If you're not interested in becoming a critic, it's probably not the program for you. And that means critical of your own work, critical of my work, critical of other peers' work, but all again in a constructive, way. And so if you were just basically to do a search on the internet, which what I was showing here, and put in the word Fearology on a Google search, it's interesting what you get. You get basically some things that are my writing, some things people use Fearology in a popularized use of the term, often a negative connotation actually. And there's no real definition usually given to those things. Then I have some scholars who are starting to cite my work, as in this third example, a PhD student. So it's slowly getting out there and getting some value. Here you can see some more searches, what they show up. And this is on Google Scholar, which you get, and I think I found 23 hits. This was about a year ago, and Fisher, myself, makes up 90% of those listed in a Google Scholar search. So you can see I pretty much have been the leader of this field, and that doesn't mean my work is all great, but I can tell you there's enough here to keep you reading and studying for a decade or more to really get my formation. But what I want to point out is the Fearology Institute, even though it teaches about Fearology, I leave it still very open for everybody to come to their own kind of sub-definition, right? There's the basic definition. Fearology is the study of fear in relationship to life, living things, and the universe, really. But you may come in with very particular angles on how you want to promote, design, and think about your own Fearology idea, imagination, and your work. So you don't have to follow Dr. Fisher, but you do have to know Dr. Fisher's work. And then again, I want to see if you're changing it or moving in a different direction, that you actually can make a good, scholarly, and intelligent, at least, doesn't have to be always scholarly, but an intelligent rationale and reason for why you do not want to go down the road of understanding Fearology and its methodologies that I've created. And you want to bring in some new ones and go in a different direction. So it's, again, it's a respectful discourse to the tradition that I'm bringing, and that also you can go off on your own and be creative. And yes, of course, I would love to be creative myself, so I don't want anybody just doing my way. All right, I think you get the idea. So academic scholars, I basically conclude, are not taking seriously yet the study of Fearology, right? Beyond myself and a rare few other mentions, but not really showing the work. I do not see the Fearology work being done. So they're not also citing my publications overall, and it turns out academics, for some reasons, prefer to cite my work on fearism. That's a whole other study, and it's interesting within global migration studies, but I use fearism in this term the way that academics are studying it and using it in a way that's quite negative. It's like fearism is like terrorism, right? That's how I started using fearism originally, and then Desh Suba came along, who out of Nepal now lives in Hong Kong, has developed philosophy of fearism independently from me, and he uses it in a much more positive way, and I've collaborated with him. So there's a journal of Fearology I had in mind that it actually turned out that I didn't use that idea for the journal I started about 6 months ago, which is the International Journal of Fear Studies. Okay, well, that's probably good for now. I'll just take this off, stop share. So welcome back again to my quick overview to coming to this video, being interested in, at least intrigued that you actually possibly have a role to play in a better improvement of not only what is fear, that is not my main question as a fearologist, but how do we know what fear is? How do we do that critical philosophical analysis, understanding? And again, don't have to be a super intellectual. You don't have to be a super scholar. Yes, you have to be well-read. You have to be a thinker. But it's more than that, because it also is about coming from a place of wisdom and compassion. So I'll be looking at you, helping you to develop your wisdom, you bringing your gifts of wisdom to the program, and compassion, right? Or heart side, the intellectual side, and weaving that in an integrated synthesis. And then really, how then can you bring that gift out to the world? So that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you today, and look forward to well, whatever impacts that you might get, inspirations from my work as you study it more. I have a video channel and so on with some 60 videos, and those are all part of the curriculum as well as all my written work that a lot of it's up online and so on. So your gift, your interest, your spirit, if you will, the spirit of fearlessness, if you will, saying, wow, here's an opportunity for me. I want to pursue this. So I'm asking you basically to not, as much as you can help, be overly intimidated by all of the big words and the way I talk, because again, I talk in a particular way, I'm trained in a particular way, but that doesn't mean you have to be exactly like that. But you're going to engage with it, right? You're going to engage with me, you're going to engage with other peers, and we all come slightly from different backgrounds. And that was what was really interesting about the cohort we just had. They came from such different backgrounds, and I really enjoyed all of the students in the ways, and I thank them for their participation as far as they went in the program with that first course. And what I'm looking for is how to improve it, and having conversations on fine-tuning, the education process is this transformative learning, but mostly really trying to help people understand what transformative learning is. So let's get that understood first before you even dive into the course. Sometimes there's framing around transformative learning. It's not the same as get information, feedback that information, then you know. No, the knowing, the knowledge, the understanding, the deep understanding of what fear is in relationship to this whole fear ecology that I sometimes call the ecology of fear on the whole planet and our history as a species, etc. This is the bigger picture of what Fearology is interested in. And Fearology is particularly interested in the methodologies and the studies and the ways of knowing within a critical frame. A lot of words, but ultimately what will bring you to connect with the Fearology Institute and promote the Fearology Institute will be that you connect with a spirit in the work that goes beyond all that intellect, all those words, all my speak, and you find a connection that really speaks to the problems of the world and solutions. Thanks very much for listening today.